The party was perfect, or so I thought. The lights sparkled off the crystal chandeliers. Soft jazz filled the room, and every guest held a glass of wine or a cocktail, mingling and laughing. It was the kind of night my wife, Lauren, loved. She thrived on attention, on being the center of it all, and tonight was no different. She looked stunning in a low-cut emerald dress, her golden hair falling in waves over her shoulders. As she glided through the crowd, her laughter rang out like a melody, charming everyone she spoke to. I, on the other hand, stayed by the bar, keeping an eye on things. It wasn't unusual for Lauren to draw attention, especially from men. She had this way of making people feel like they were the most important person in the room, flirting just enough to keep them hooked. Normally, I ignored it. But tonight, something felt different. It started when her ex, Eric, walked in. I'd never liked the guy. Too smooth, too confident, the kind of guy who always seemed to have an ulterior motive. Lauren had assured me they were just friends, but I didn't buy it. The way his eyes lit up when he saw her, the way she smiled back, it wasn't friendly. As the night wore on, I noticed little things. Lauren's laughter got louder whenever Eric was around. She touched his arm when she spoke to him, leaning in a little too close. Every time I glanced in their direction, she'd catch my eye and give me a reassuring smile, as if daring me to question her. By the time dessert was served, my gut was screaming at me. Something was going on. I decided to test her. When she came over to refill her wine, I wrapped my arm around her waist and whispered, "You seem busy tonight. Having fun?" "Of course," she said, kissing my cheek. "Everyone's having a great time." Her tone was sweet, but her eyes darted toward Eric across the room. I followed her gaze, and when she realized I'd caught her, she quickly looked away. "I'll be right back," she said, slipping out of my grip. I watched as she made her way toward Eric, her hips swaying just a little more than usual. My blood boiled, but I stayed calm, pretending to sip my drink while keeping her in my peripheral vision. 10 minutes later, she disappeared. At first, I thought I was overreacting. She could have gone to the bathroom or stepped outside for air. But when I scanned the room, Eric was missing too. My jaw tightened as I set down my glass. I made my way through the crowd, pretending to check on guests while discreetly looking for Lauren. She wasn't on the patio or in the kitchen. Then I remembered the guest bedrooms upstairs. No, she wouldn't. But the knot in my stomach told me otherwise. I made my way to the staircase, weaving through clusters of partygoers who were too drunk or too distracted to notice my growing tension. My heart was pounding in my chest, but I kept my expression neutral, nodding politely when someone tried to stop me for small talk. Once I was at the base of the stairs, I scanned the room one last time. No sign of Lauren or Eric. That was all the confirmation I needed. The second I reached the top of the staircase, the atmosphere shifted. It was quieter, the noise from the party below muffled by the thick carpeting and closed doors. The hallway stretched in front of me, lined with 3 guest rooms and the door to my home office at the far end. I moved quietly, listening for any sound that might give them away. Then I heard it, a soft laugh coming from the second door on the right. Lauren's laugh. I froze, my blood boiling. It wasn't just the sound of her laugh. It was how she laughed. Low and flirty, the way she used to laugh with me before we got married. I crept closer, pressing my ear to the door. Her voice was muffled, but unmistakable. "You're terrible," she giggled. "What if someone comes up here?" Eric's deep voice responded, smooth and confident. "Relax. No one's paying attention." Besides, there was a pause, then a low chuckle. "You're the one who came up here first." I clenched my fists, the air leaving my lungs in short, shallow breaths. I wanted to kick the door down right then and there, but something stopped me. I needed proof. Lauren was a master manipulator, always spinning stories to make herself look like the victim. If I confronted her without evidence, she'd deny everything and make me look like the paranoid husband. No, I needed her lies to unravel in front of everyone. I pulled out my phone, opening the camera app. My hands were shaking as I hit record, angling the phone toward the small gap between the door and the frame. What I saw made my stomach churn. Lauren was sitting on the edge of the guest bed, her dress hiked up to mid-thigh. Eric stood in front of her, his hand on her knee, slowly sliding it upward. Her hand rested on his chest, and the look she gave him wasn't one of hesitation. It was desire. "This is so risky," she murmured, though there was no real concern in her voice. "That's what makes it fun," Eric replied, leaning down to kiss her neck. She tilted her head, giving him better access as her hand slid up his shirt, her fingers trailing over his abs. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. The woman who had vowed to love and honor me was sitting in my house, at my party, sneaking around with a man she once claimed meant nothing to her. I ended the recording and took a deep breath, forcing myself to stay calm. This wasn't just about catching them, it was about exposing them. I backed away from the door, making sure they didn't hear me. Then I pulled up the app linked to the living room TV. I'd recently installed a smart system that allowed me to stream videos directly to the screen. It was supposed to be for fun, sharing photos, playing party games, but now it had a much better use. If Lauren wanted to humiliate me by sneaking off with her ex during our party, I'd make sure she was the one who ended up humiliated. I stormed down the stairs, adrenaline coursing through my veins as I maneuvered through the crowd. People were laughing, clinking glasses, oblivious to the storm brewing above them. Lauren had gone to great lengths to create the illusion of a perfect evening, and I was about to shatter it. I reached the corner of the living room where the entertainment setup was stationed. My phone still clutched in my hand, I accessed the smart system app that controlled the TV. A few swipes and taps, and the recording from upstairs was queued up and ready to play. But I wasn't ready to press play just yet. I wanted Lauren to see it, to feel the cold, sickening realization that she was caught in the act. I wanted her to be surrounded by every friend, every coworker, every family member we'd invited tonight. I grabbed a champagne glass and gently tapped it with a fork, the soft chime cutting through the chatter of the room. "Excuse me, everyone," I said, forcing a smile as dozens of heads turned toward me. "Can I have your attention for just a moment?" The room quieted, curious faces looking my way. "I'd like to thank you all for coming tonight. Lauren and I are so glad to have you here." I began, my voice steady. "In fact, I have something really special I'd like to share with you all. Something personal." A few murmurs rippled through the crowd. People exchanged curious glances, wondering what kind of surprise I had in store. I glanced toward the stairs, where Lauren still hadn't appeared. "Perfect. Please, make yourselves comfortable," I continued, gesturing toward the couches and chairs. "This will only take a moment." I hit play. At first, the TV displayed a blank screen as the video began. The sound kicked in before the visuals. Lauren's unmistakable laugh, light and flirtatious. "You're terrible," she said, her voice clear as day. "What if someone comes up here?" The crowd fell silent, the air growing thick with tension. Then the screen flickered to life, displaying the recording of Lauren and Eric in the guest bedroom. Gasps echoed through the room as the footage played, showing Eric leaning down to kiss Lauren's neck, her hands trailing over his chest. "Oh my God," someone whispered. "Is that Lauren?" Another voice asked, horrified. I scanned the crowd, watching as realization dawned on each face. The whispers grew louder, shock and disgust spreading like wildfire. "What the hell is this?" a man muttered. Before anyone could say more, there was a commotion from the stairs. Lauren appeared, her face flushed, her dress slightly disheveled. "What's going on?" she called out, her eyes darting between the screen and the crowd. That's when she saw it, the video playing in real time, her betrayal on full display for everyone to see. Her face drained of color as she stumbled forward, her mouth opening and closing in silent horror. "Jake," she croaked, her voice barely audible. What is this?" I stepped forward, my smile cold and sharp. "It's exactly what it looks like, Lauren. Or should I say, what everyone's been watching upstairs." Her eyes widened, tears welling up as the crowd turned their attention to her. "Jake, please," she begged, her voice trembling. "Let me explain." The room was electric with tension. Guests were glued to the TV, their faces twisted in shock and disgust as the footage continued to play. Lauren and Eric were tangled together on the screen, oblivious to the fact that they'd been caught, their whispered words echoing through the living room like a confession. "This is so risky," Lauren purred on the video, her hands sliding over Eric's chest. That's what makes it fun, Eric replied, his lips brushing her neck. The gasps grew louder, and someone actually muttered, "What the hell is wrong with her?" Lauren stumbled toward me, her face pale and her hands trembling. "Jake, stop this. Turn it off. Please." "Why?" I asked, my voice cold. "Feeling exposed? Embarrassed?" "That's funny, because you didn't seem to care about how this would humiliate me." "Jake, I didn't mean for this to happen," she cried, tears streaming down her face. "It was a mistake. I wasn't thinking." "Save it," I snapped, cutting her off. "You were thinking just fine when you snuck off with him. You were thinking just fine when you kissed him. I gestured to the screen where the video was still playing. Lauren's hands flew to her mouth, a strangled sob escaping her throat. "Please, Jake," she whispered. "We can fix this. Just stop the video." Her pleas only made me angrier. I turned toward the crowd, raising my voice. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is the real Lauren," I announced, my tone dripping with bitterness. "The woman who promised to love and honor me. The woman who couldn't even make it through her own party without sneaking off to screw her ex-boyfriend in my house." The guests looked between Lauren and the screen, their expressions ranging from pity to outright disgust. A few of our friends, people who had known us for years, started shaking their heads and muttering under their breath. "I can't believe this," one of Lauren's co-workers said. "She always acts so perfect." "Guess we know why she wanted to host a party here," another guest whispered. "Convenient for her affair." That's when Eric walked in. He must have heard the commotion because he froze in the doorway, his eyes darting between the screen and the crowd. His normally cocky demeanor vanished, replaced by sheer panic. "What the hell, man?" he blurted, his voice cracking. "Perfect timing," I said, gesturing toward the TV. "Everyone, meet Eric, the guy my wife thought was worth ruining her marriage for." The crowd turned on him, their judgmental stares cutting through his feigned bravado. "You're disgusting," someone muttered. Eric raised his hands defensively. "Look, I didn't mean for this to happen." "Save it," I interrupted, my voice laced with venom. "You two deserve each other. I just wanted everyone to see the truth." Lauren turned on Eric then, her face twisting with anger. "This is all your fault," she screamed. "You're the one who—" "My fault," Eric shot back, his voice rising. "You're the one who couldn't keep your hands off me. Don't act like I forced you." The crowd watched their argument like it was some twisted reality show, their whispers growing louder with every word. "Wow," one guest said. "They're already turning on each other." "Pathetic," another muttered. Lauren looked back at me, her eyes wild with desperation. "Jake, please, let's go somewhere and talk. Just you and me. We can figure this out." I laughed bitterly, shaking my head. "There's nothing to figure out, Lauren. You made your choice. Now you can live with the consequences." I grabbed the remote and stopped the video, the screen going black. But the damage was already done. Everyone had seen enough. The room was dead silent, except for the faint hum of the TV as the video ended. All eyes were on Lauren, who stood trembling in the middle of the living room, mascara streaking her face and her once perfect emerald dress now looking like a costume for a fraud. Eric stood by the doorway, frozen like a deer in headlights. The confident smirk he always wore was gone, replaced by the look of a man who knew he'd just ruined everything. I took a step forward, crossing my arms as I addressed the room. "For those of you who didn't know," I said, my voice cold and cutting, "this little reunion between Lauren and Eric wasn't just a one-time thing. They've been sneaking around behind my back for weeks, and tonight, at our party, they thought they'd add another notch to their belt in one of the guest bedrooms." Gasps and murmurs rippled through the crowd. A few people looked at Lauren, shaking their heads in disgust. "Jake," Lauren began, her voice barely a whisper. "Save it," I snapped, cutting her off. "You don't get to play the victim here. You didn't care about me when you were sneaking around with him. You didn't care about our marriage, our life, or what this would do to me. You only cared about yourself." Tears streamed down her face as she clasped her hands together. "I made a mistake. I wasn't thinking, Jake. Please, we can fix this." "Fix this?" I repeated, laughing bitterly. "You think we can fix this? After you humiliated me in front of everyone we know? After you screwed him in my house? There's no coming back from this, Lauren." Eric finally found his voice, stepping forward with his hands raised. Look, man, I get it. You're pissed. But this doesn't have to get any uglier. I turned on him, my eyes blazing. You don't get to talk to me. You're just as guilty as she is. Sneaking into my house, messing around with my wife at my party. What kind of man does that? Eric swallowed hard, his bravado crumbling. I didn't mean for it to happen like this. Oh, I'm sure you didn't, I said sarcastically. You thought you could sneak around, have your fun, and get away with it. But guess what? You didn't. Lauren looked around the room, her desperation mounting as she realized the crowd wasn't on her side. People were whispering, pointing, exchanging disgusted glances. This is unreal, one woman muttered. I can't believe she'd do this to Jake. Some people don't know how to respect what they have, another guest said, shaking her head. Lauren's tears turned to anger as she spun toward the crowd. You don't know anything, she shouted, her voice trembling. This is between Jake and me. None of you have any right to judge me. Someone scoffed. We're not the ones who cheated at our own party. The crowd murmured in agreement, their judgmental stares making Lauren shrink back. Jake, she pleaded again, her voice cracking. Don't do this. Please. We've been through so much together. Don't throw it all away because of one stupid mistake. I shook my head, my voice steady. You already threw it away, Lauren. I'm just cleaning up the mess you made. I turned to the crowd, addressing them one last time. Thank you all for coming tonight. I think we're done here. Enjoy the rest of your evening somewhere else. The guests took the hint, awkwardly filing out of the house. A few stopped to pat me on the shoulder or mutter words of support, but most just left quietly, not wanting to be part of the fallout any longer. When the last guest had left, I turned back to Lauren and Eric. They stood side by side, looking like two kids caught stealing from the cookie jar. You have 5 minutes to get out of my house, I said coldly. Both of you. Lauren's face crumpled, but she didn't argue. She turned to Eric, grabbing his arm. Come on, let's just go. Damn right, you're leaving, I muttered under my breath as they shuffled toward the door. Lauren and Eric shuffled toward the door, the weight of the crowd's judgment still hanging in the air. As they passed me, Lauren tried one last time to plead her case. Jake, don't do this, she begged, her voice trembling. You don't mean it. We can talk about this tomorrow, when things have calmed down. I stepped aside, my expression stone cold. The only thing I'll be talking about tomorrow is getting a locksmith to change the locks. Her face crumpled as tears streamed down her cheeks, but I felt no sympathy. Not anymore. She turned to Eric, who stood awkwardly by the door, unsure of what to say or do. Let's just go, she muttered, her voice dripping with shame. They left without another word, the door slamming shut behind them. The silence that followed was deafening. The house, once alive with laughter and music, now felt like a hollow shell. I took a deep breath, letting the adrenaline start to fade, and surveyed the wreckage of what should have been a perfect evening. Glasses and plates were scattered across tables, half-eaten, hors d'oeuvres left abandoned. But it wasn't the mess that bothered me. It was the betrayal, the fact that Lauren had taken everything we'd built together and thrown it away in one reckless, selfish act. I grabbed a bottle of whiskey from the bar and poured myself a generous glass. Sitting down on the couch, I pulled out my phone and opened the recording. Watching it again was like twisting the knife deeper, but I couldn't look away. Her laugh, her touch, the way she looked at Eric. It all confirmed what I already knew. She wasn't sorry for what she'd done. She was sorry she'd been caught. My phone buzzed, pulling me out of my thoughts. It was a text from one of the party guests, a close friend who had seen everything unfold. Hey man, just wanted to say I'm here for you. Let me know if you need anything. I appreciated the support, but I wasn't in the mood to talk. I put my phone on silent and leaned back, staring at the ceiling. But the anger bubbling inside me wouldn't let me rest. This wasn't over, not by a long shot. Lauren thought she could walk out of here with Eric and save face, that the humiliation would end once the party was over. She was wrong. The next morning, I woke up with a clear plan. I spent hours combing through the recordings, pulling together clips that showed exactly what Lauren and Eric had been up to. Not just from the party, but from the past few weeks. Evidence I'd been gathering since I first suspected something was off. Once I had everything compiled, I sent the files to a private group chat with a few mutual friends and family members. The message was simple. For those of you who weren't at the party last night, this is what really happened. Thought you should know the truth. The responses started pouring in almost immediately. Oh my God, Jake. I'm so sorry. I can't believe she did this to you. Eric's a piece of garbage. You deserve so much better. By midday, the videos had spread far beyond the group chat. Friends, co-workers, neighbors, everyone who knew us was now talking about Lauren's betrayal. By midday, the videos had taken on a life of their own. What started as a private message to friends and family spread like wildfire through group chats, social media, and the neighborhood grapevine. Lauren and Eric's betrayal had become the scandal of the year. My phone buzzed nonstop with messages. Some were from people I hadn't spoken to in years, offering condolences or asking for the juicy details. Others were from mutual friends who couldn't believe what they'd seen. Jake, this is insane. Are you okay? She really did this? At your party? In your house? You're a legend for how you handled it, man. For the first time since this nightmare started, I felt like I was back in control. Lauren had humiliated me in front of everyone we knew, but now the tables had turned. Meanwhile, Lauren was nowhere to be found. I hadn't heard a word from her since she left the party with Eric the night before, but the fallout was already hitting her hard. A mutual friend called me later that afternoon, her voice brimming with disbelief. Jake, have you seen Lauren's Instagram? She asked. No, irraplia. Why? She posted some vague sob story about people spreading lies and betraying her trust. It's pathetic. I laughed, shaking my head. Of course she did. She can't handle the truth, so she's trying to rewrite the story. Yeah, well, no one's buying it, the friend continued. The comments are brutal. People are calling her out left and right, saying they saw the video. She's getting roasted. Good, I thought. She deserved every bit of it. Later that evening, another bombshell dropped. One of Eric's co-workers messaged me with some insider info. Dude, he wrote, Eric got called into a meeting today. Apparently, someone sent the video to his boss. They're reviewing whether his behavior violates the company's code of conduct. The idea of Eric losing his job because of his arrogance and lack of boundaries brought a grim smile to my face. It wasn't enough to make up for what he'd done, but it was a start. That night, I finally heard from Lauren. My phone buzzed with an incoming call from her number. I stared at the screen for a moment before answering, my voice flat. What do you want? Her voice was shaky, a mix of anger and desperation. Jake, what the hell are you doing? Why are you spreading those videos around? You're ruining my life. I barked out a bitter laugh. I'm ruining your life? Are you serious right now, Lauren? You're the one who ruined everything when you decided to screw Eric at our party. It was a mistake, she shouted. You don't have to keep punishing me for it. People are turning against me, Jake. I've lost friends, my co-workers won't even look at me. And Eric, she choked back a sob. Eric says he's done with me because of this mess. Good, I said coldly. You deserve every bit of it. You made your choices, Lauren. Now you get to live with the consequences. She tried to argue, but I hung up before she could say another word. The next morning, the neighborhood group chat lit up with more gossip. Someone had spotted Lauren packing up her car and driving away from the house, she shared with Eric. She looked like a wreck. One message read, Good riddance. Another chimed in, Serves her right. Jake didn't deserve this. It seemed like the entire neighborhood had taken my side, and for the first time in weeks, I felt like I could breathe again. The fallout had hit Lauren harder than I imagined, but I wasn't done yet. She dragged me through the mud with her betrayal, so I had no problem letting her reputation sink even further. The next morning, a mutual friend messaged me. Jake, you're not going to believe this, they said. Lauren just posted a video online. She's trying to tell her side of the story. Curious, I opened the link they sent me. There she was, sitting in what looked like a cheap motel room, her hair unkempt and her face puffy from crying. She'd clearly hit rock bottom. Hi, everyone, she began, sniffling dramatically. I just want to address the rumors that have been spreading about me. Yes, I made a mistake. I hurt someone I love, and I regret it more than I can say. But the way Jake has handled this, spreading private videos and turning people against me, it's cruel and unnecessary. She paused, wiping a tear from her cheek. I know I'm not perfect, but this isn't fair. I didn't deserve to be humiliated like this. I hope people can find it in their hearts to forgive me and let me move on. I shook my head, laughing bitterly as I finished the video. Classic Lauren, always the victim. By the afternoon, the video had circulated through our network of friends and neighbors. The responses weren't what Lauren had hoped for. She's really playing the victim after everything she did? Sorry, Lauren, but you don't get to screw around and then cry when you get caught. Jake deserves better. End of story. The comments were brutal, and by the end of the day, Lauren had deleted the video entirely. But the damage was done. She tried to salvage her reputation and only ended up digging herself deeper. Later that evening, I got another call, this time from her mother. Jake, her voice was tense. I don't know what's going on between you and Lauren, but this needs to stop. She's falling apart. She's my daughter, and I can't sit by while she's destroyed like this. I took a deep breath, keeping my tone steady. With all due respect, Mrs. Thompson, Lauren destroyed herself. She made her choices, and now she's facing the consequences. She made a mistake, her mother snapped. Is that worth ruining her entire life over? She ruined mine first, I replied coldly. And I don't owe her anything. Not sympathy, not forgiveness, and definitely not silence. There was a long pause on the other end before her mother sighed. I don't agree with how you're handling this, but I can't force you to stop. Just think about how much you've both already lost. She hung up before I could respond, but her words didn't sway me. Lauren had crossed the line, and there was no coming back from it. Meanwhile, Eric was dealing with his own fallout. A coworker of his messaged me again with an update. Eric got called into another meeting today. Looks like he's getting fired. HR doesn't want the drama associated with him after that video went around. Hearing that made my day. Eric had swaggered into my life thinking he could take what he wanted without consequences, and now he was paying the price. With Eric fired and Lauren publicly disgraced, the final pieces of my plan were falling into place. I wasn't interested in reconciliation, apologies, or excuses. I just wanted both of them out of my life for good. The morning after Lauren's tearful video fiasco, my lawyer called with an update. Jake, I've spoken to Lauren's attorney, he said, his tone businesslike. They're proposing a quick resolution to the divorce. She's willing to forfeit any claim to the house or joint assets as long as you agree not to pursue legal action over the video evidence. I smirked, leaning back in my chair. Let me get this straight. She wants me to let her walk away clean after everything she's done? Essentially, he replied. No deal, I said firmly. We'll proceed as planned. She doesn't get to dictate the terms after what she pulled. My lawyer chuckled. I thought you'd say that. I'll let her team know. Later that day, I got a call from Lauren herself. I hesitated before answering, knowing this conversation wasn't going to be pleasant. Jake, please, she said the moment I picked up. I know you're angry, but this has gone too far. My parents are ashamed of me. Eric's gone, and I've lost everything. Isn't that enough? I clenched my jaw, forcing myself to stay calm. You're asking me to feel sorry for you after what you did to me? You humiliated me, lied to me, and tried to cover it all up. You don't get to play the victim now. I know I hurt you, she pleaded, her voice breaking. But can't we just end this without dragging it out? I'm trying to move on, Jake. I need you to let me move on. I laughed bitterly. Move on? You're lucky I haven't pressed charges for trespassing and adultery. You've already lost everything because of your actions, Lauren. Not because of me. Jake, please, she whispered, her voice trembling. I'm sorry. I don't know what else to say. Sorry doesn't fix what you did, I said coldly. And it sure as hell doesn't erase the damage you caused. Goodbye, Lauren. I ended the call, my resolve stronger than ever. That night, I got another update from one of our mutual friends. Lauren's staying at some cheap motel on the edge of town, they said. She's been avoiding everyone, even her own family. I think she's hoping this will all blow over. Good, I replied. Let her stay there. She dug this hole herself. Meanwhile, Eric had gone radio silent. No calls, no texts, no updates from anyone who knew him. As far as I was concerned, he was a ghost. The next day, I heard through the grapevine that his landlord had evicted him after the video circulated, claiming it violated his lease agreement. Serves him right, Ryan said when I told him the news. Guy thought he could play with fire and walk away unscathed. Guess he found out the hard way. I nodded, feeling a grim sense of satisfaction. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I was in control again. The fallout was complete, but I wasn't done. Lauren and Eric had shattered my life. And while they were already facing the consequences, I wanted to make sure neither of them crawled out of the hole they'd dug anytime soon. I had one final move to play, and it was going to cement their disgrace. The next morning, I uploaded the videos to a public file-sharing platform, carefully scrubbing any personal details of my own before doing so. I wasn't petty enough to ruin them illegally, but I wanted their betrayal to live on as a warning to others. In the video description, I wrote, "This is what happens when you betray someone who trusted you. A cheating wife and her accomplice, caught red-handed. Actions have consequences." I shared the link anonymously in a few online forums. It didn't take long for it to gain traction. Within hours, the video was being shared widely, with commenters tearing into both Lauren and Eric. "This is wild. Good for the husband for exposing them. Imagine being this shameless at your own party. Trash behavior. Eric's a certified clown. Hope he enjoys unemployment." The public spectacle wasn't just satisfying, it was cathartic. Lauren and Eric had stolen my dignity, my trust, and my peace, but now they had to face the world's judgment. By midday, my phone was buzzing with texts from friends who had stumbled upon the video online. "Jake, this thing is blowing up," one text read. "I hope you're sitting back and enjoying the show." I was. Lauren tried calling me again that evening, but I didn't answer. Her voicemails were desperate, her once smooth voice cracking under the weight of her humiliation. "Jake, please, you have to take the video down. People are tagging me everywhere. It's ruining my life. I can't go anywhere without someone recognizing me." Her next message was angrier. "You're a monster for doing this. I made a mistake, but this is too far. How can you be so cruel?" I deleted the voicemails without a second thought. She had made her choices, and now she was reaping what she'd sown. Eric, unsurprisingly, didn't have the guts to reach out. From what I heard through the grapevine, he'd left town altogether, probably hoping to escape the chaos. But the internet never forgets, and his name was now permanently tied to the scandal. With Lauren and Eric disgraced and the divorce proceedings going in my favor, I finally felt free. The house was mine again, the weight of their betrayal lifted. And the best part? I didn't have to lift a finger to ruin them. Their own actions had done all the work for me. As I stood on my porch that night, looking out at the quiet street, I allowed myself a small, satisfied smile. Revenge wasn't just sweet, it was justice.